Greetings, fellow Gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And today we're going to talk about The Animal Kingdom by director Thomas Cailley, which is a French urban fantasy dystopian film. It's not explicitly a horror movie, but it does contain a lot of body horror in it. And the reason why it does is because this movie is about a world in which a portion of the population will just start turning into an animal person.
Yeah.
But the animal people are a persecuted class within this world, so it's not a good thing to have that happen to you. The world will shun you. They will lock you away, essentially. You will be treated like less than human.
Yeah.
Our main characters in this are Francois and his son, Emile. And Emile, over the course of this movie, slowly discovers that they are a dog person. The movie is largely about the father, who already went through this once with the boy's mother, now having to deal with the fact that the son is slowly transforming into one of these things, and they have to hide it from, all the usual suspects and try to figure out how to have a normal life while hiding this very obvious aspect of the son, while the son is having to deal with these changes that are overtaking their body that they can't control, but the world is going to look down on them and lock him away if it's discovered that he has these things.
Yeah.
There's very obvious parallels you can draw here to various things. The movie doesn't make an explicit indication as to what its central metaphor is, but you can read into it as stuff like being queer. You can read into it as like being trans. You can even read into it to stuff like being Jewish or Romani.
Yeah, it's like X-Men that way.
Exactly. It's a very multi-purpose metaphor going on here. Anyone that is discriminated against by society and treated like less than human, this movie's basically speaking towards.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie that I'm surprised I haven't heard like anything about until we watched it on a whim.
Yeah.
We didn't even find it on a streaming platform. You discovered it.
Yeah, I ran into a clip from it randomly on it was Instagram or TikTok, and I was like, what the hell is this movie? And
then we rented it.
Then we rented it, and it turned out it was really good.
Yeah, it's a really fucking good movie. Again, it's not like a horror movie, but the body horror of watching the son go through the transformations is really intense.
Yeah, and also some of the other people who are transforming. And one of the things that's really interesting about the movie is you would expect a movie of this tone to kind of hold back on the types of animals people were turning into. No. And it starts out fast.
Yes.
It gets right to it.
That first bird person you see is really in your face.
Yeah. And it's in the first 5 minutes,
I love that reveal too, because at first it feels like we're just in the normal world.
Yeah.
You have a father and a son in a car and they're arguing. But then when the bird person shows up, it's your entire understanding of the world you're watching is just upended.
Yeah, because at first you think it's oh shit, is this gonna be zombie rules?
Yeah.
With one patient zero infects a bunch of people? And it turns out, no, this is actually a thing that they deal with.
They're just so afraid every time it happens.
Yeah, because it's random.
That they react to it in the most extreme manner because societally they look down and fear these mutations.
Yeah, and when they do the first reveal, initially he moves so quickly you don't see what's happening.
Yeah.
And then when they do the reveal that he's part bird,
That's another thing about this movie. Yes, the effects are phenomenal in this.
Yeah.
You have phenomenal top-tier makeup effects. There's at times where they're doing really well done puppetry. And then there are times where there's actual CGI to do a tentacle or something like that. And it looks really good.
Yeah. There's a scene where one of them is in a Costco type of thing. And you're trying to figure out what kind of animal is she? And you assume it's going to be cheetah or...
Yeah, you're expecting dog person, cat person, bird person.
Yeah.
You're not expecting squid person.
Yeah, you're not expecting squid octopus girl.
Yeah.
And
at one point there's a walrus person. There's all these weird animals. There's a lizard person at one point. So there's a point in which a character wanders through a forest and there's a bunch of animals about and you see all these different types of animals. There's one that looks like is one of those stick bugs.
Yes.
Those bugs that that like blend in and look like sticks.
Yeah.
And there's like a giant one of
that
those.
freaked me out because that was one of those possibilities I hadn't considered, which is giant insect people.
Yes, exactly. You know? And what I love about it is that you simultaneously understand the initial fear.
Oh, yeah.
When the humans see these things. But the movie also demonstrates how, even though you have that initial fear, what's really important is your second reaction. The initial fear is natural. You're looking at something that looks like a scary predator. But what's your second reaction?
Yeah, what do you do after that? Because one of the things that the movie does, it does this subtly. The reaction between the animal people and the humans, you realize, oh, that's right. Animals don't usually just attack people. Like,
Not
that's
generally.
actually really unusual.
Not
when that
generally.
happens.
Animals are usually afraid of humans, first off. Even like scary predators tend to be afraid of
They're
humans.
cautious, at least.
There are circumstances in which they might attack a human. If they're like really hungry, if they're not doing well, like they got rabies or some shit.
Right.
It might happen. Also, if they just feel really threatened.
Yeah, or if you are hurting them.
Or if you're hurting them,
they'll fight back.
Or if they feel like their children are at threat. Is another
Yeah, that's
situation.
another big one. Occasionally an animal attack will come.
It can happen.
But it's rare.
Because they're still wild animals. Like, you can't entirely predict their behavior. Like humans, some humans kill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, well, it reminded me a lot of the incident. This is actually a real thing that happened. There was a coyote right outside the front door, but I didn't know what it was.
Also, like, making this ungodly noise while it was digging in the fucking yard. And the noise sounded like a dog being abused.
Yeah.
So there's that initial reaction. It's like, is a homeless person like beating a dog out there? What's going on?
Yeah, it turns out it was an adult coyote.
Yeah.
The minute I looked at it, it fucking jumped at me, but it wasn't attacking me. It was trying to get away. But then we ended up in this standoff because it was like, hey, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And that was like both of us.
Yeah, that was a particularly bold coyote.
Oh, yeah.
And that was pretty frightening. And this movie kind of captures that feeling of like that encounter with like a wild animal. You kind of understand where the initial fear comes from, but then you also look at the way these people are treated.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's gotta be like a more humane way to protect people from the dangerous ones. And also not treat them like these second-class citizens that are just locked away in fucking rooms for their entire existence. I mean, okay, it's still bad, right?
Right.
But the least you could do is just like lock off a forest and let them live there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
You just be like, okay, man, it's fucking. Oh, speaking of animals.
Hey, Massimo. Hey. You decided to visit again? For those of you who don't know, Massimo sometimes visits us because Massimo figured out how to use Gomez's cat door, which is...
And he's a little doggy. Arr, arr, look at that. Arr. Oh no, we're being attacked.
It's the result of having a shared yard with our neighbor.
Yeah. Look at that. Oh, licking my lips a bit much.
Kind of appropriate given that we're talking about the animal kingdom, that Massimo has showed up and he's being a little vicious beast.
Arr, arr.
All right, buddy, I'll tell you what, I'll give you some treats when we're done with the vlog. How about that? Sound good?
He's like, I don't know. I'm a dog.
I just want to play. But the central, like, heart of this movie is really the dad and his son, and their grief over the fact that this happened to the mom, and their fear and anxiety over it happening to the son again.
Yeah.
And there's a huge chunk of the movie where the son is going through the transformations alone and is kind of hiding it from his dad for obvious reasons. And those scenes are, like, great because you can totally see them as the same as, like, someone going through some sort of, like, puberty, right?
Yeah.
Bodies changing in weird ways, nails are falling off, and shit like that. It's
go hair where it wasn't there before.
Yeah, but it's causing behaviors that are unacceptable, but he can't control them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know?
they're new to him.
Instinctual reactions. Those parts of the movie are just so well done and so well acted, and the performances of everyone playing one of the animal people.
Yeah.
Not just the main character, that son, and his transformation over the course of the movie into a dog person. His performance is great, because at first he just starts off like a normal-ass teenager, but then over the course of the movie, he starts incorporating more dog-like movements and sounds just in his natural cadence. And like, it's so subtle that you might even miss it the first time you watch it. But then you also have like all the animal people that are further along in their transformations that he encounters, like the bird person and like all the bird movements that they've done.
That guy's great.
Like, the actors obviously all studied their animals and did a damn good job.
The guy who played the bird Fix, he was the best.
I love that guy. I love that character because he's such an asshole, but he's an asshole for an understandable reason.
You get why.
And when bad things happen later on in the movie, you're like so fucking sad.
One of the details about the bird guy is he's got this like medical mask over his face the entire time. And you're kind of sitting there wondering what the hell happened until it's revealed that he used to have a beak and they surgically took it off.
Yeah.
Try to make him more human.
And now think about any sort of like cosmetic surgery that people do to children in order to like correct them.
Yeah.
You know, even something as simple as like circumcision.
Right.
These little things that we do because they gotta be normal. So we have to do these things. So we're gonna snip that off. That's what I thought of when they talked about like him getting the corrective surgery to remove the beak.
Yeah.
Which was genius because it allowed them to like not get too goofy with the makeup on him, but also have this like horrifying character element for him.
Yes.
And backstory. It's really well done.
Yeah.
Because he's the one you're going to see the most of his face for.
Right.
Compared to some of the other animal creatures who are way further along. So you just get like walrus, like animatronic face.
Yeah. It's easier to have like, to put this medical thing on him and go wild with like the wings in his legs.
Yes. And he spends a huge chunk of the movie trying to learn to fly, and it's the most endearing
it's really good
thing ever.
In particular, the thing I loved about the way they did him trying to learn to fly was that in the beginning, he tries to fly like a human thinks a bird does.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and by the end of it, he actually does the actual bird thing.
And that's the other thing. The further along in your transformation, you do become essentially an animal. The Birdman's a great example. There's a point in which he loses the ability to verbalize language.
Yeah, he can't speak anymore.
He can just speak bird. That's it.
Yeah, because he's not like a parrot that has like vocal cords.
Yeah, exactly. What I love about this movie is it doesn't shy away from the horror of it, but it also makes it very clear, no matter how you slice it, the real monsters are the people locking them away.
Oh, yeah. Turns out the real monster is bad, you know?
And what makes it worse is that what they're going through is so fucking scary and horrifying. To have this added, like, oppression on top of it just makes it all the worse.
Yeah, because like you said before, they could have very easily just said, all right, we're just going to demarcate the wood, because that's where they all seem to want to be anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you can't, it's really dangerous to go camping there now, and that's how we're going to deal with it.
Let me be clear with this. It would still be fucked up. It would still be bad. It would be basically what we kind of did to the Native Americans.
Yeah.
But putting some sort of fence or a wall behind some sort of forests and then allowing the animal people to run free in that forest and keep like a separation between them and the humans would at least be more humane than the way they treat them in this movie, which tells you about how bad it is in this movie.
Yes. The other thing that the movie is about is our relationship with animals.
Yes.
It's not as simple as humans bad.
Yeah.
Because there actually are, as it turns out, a lot of people that there are already humans that treat animals like people. Yeah. Why would that change?
Yeah.
And so there are quite a lot of these people who are very sympathetic, and their big problem is making sure that these other people don't just capture them, shoot them, and put them away.
Which actually, like, brings up the other major theme in this movie. There's obviously the theme of oppression, the theme of dystopia, the theme of evolution, all that stuff going on. But another theme in this movie that's very prominent is man's disconnect from nature.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And to a certain extent, what's happening with this evolution is a reconnection with nature.
Yeah, we are now in this weird position as human beings where pretty much as far as nature is concerned, particularly with animals, what we say goes.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that can really push back against that.
Yeah.
Whereas in this scenario, that's no longer the case.
Yeah.
You know, like we're now looking at, maybe we will have natural predators now, you know, things like that, but they don't know.
The most dangerous predator in the world at this point in time is human beings.
Yeah. We make guns. We make weapons. We're very good at it.
We're capable of leveling entire cities in a single blow.
Oh yeah, hell, we're capable of grinding mountains into powder.
Almost like nature's trying to reconnect humans to nature with this evolutionary step.
Yeah.
But humans are utterly rejecting it.
Yeah.
They're so disconnected from nature, they fear it.
Yeah. Yeah, they really don't know what to do. Had to consider this in a long time. And the other thing I really appreciated was it's a very French movie.
Yeah.
If this was an American movie, it would have either have had a truly uplifting acceptance ending, or it would have been completely tragic.
Yeah. This movie has a very bittersweet, melancholic ending that has an uplifting element to it.
Yeah, that is hopeful. Yeah, it's very hopeful, actually.
There's a hopeful element to it, 100%, but it's not like the problem solved.
Correct.
And we'll talk more about that in the spoiler section, which we should actually move on to.
Yeah, let's move on to that. Yeah.
So, The Animal Kingdom came out last year in France, but this year on streaming for us in the US. You can rent it or buy it on pretty much any rentable streaming platform like Amazon or Vudu. I highly recommend you do. This is a movie that's kind of flown under the radar, and I think it deserves way more discussion than it's gotten.
Yeah, a movie that it really reminded me of was that blew my mind, the one about Rose turning into the mermaid.
I know which one you're talking about,
Yeah, like this feels very much like these could be the same world.
Companion movies.
Yeah, they're very much companion
I can totally see that. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, let us move on to the spoilers. One of the major tensions in this movie is the dad really wants the son to do everything in his power to suppress and hide the changes.
Yeah.
So like shaving all the hair off, hiding his fingernails, anything he can do to avoid revealing what he truly is. But ultimately, nature is not allowing the son to do that because this is his body. This is the way it is now. And these behaviors are his natural instinctual behaviors.
Yeah, and you're worried that the dad is going to go in a deliberately abusive direction with it, but he doesn't.
And the reason why he goes so hard on his son for this is because he went through this before with the wife. And the wife ended up getting locked away, and it was super traumatic for him and the son. And then eventually, while being transported from one facility to another, ended up in a car accident, and it's unclear whether she's still alive out there.
Actually, the main character runs into her a few times.
Later on in the movie.
But later on in the movie,
I just mean like earlier on in the movie.
Oh, early on in the movie, yeah, it's totally.
And especially when he's like dealing with trying to help the son repress things.
Yeah.
There's this whole like, I don't want you to end up like mom.
Yeah.
It's a losing battle.
Yes.
There's only so many times you can shave the hair. There's only so many ways you can avoid showing off the nails.
Right, because the mutation just keeps advancing.
We know that eventually he's going to end up with a dog face because every other animal creature ends up with the animal face at some point.
At some point, yeah.
And what are you going to do then? Like, you're going to force him to do plastic surgery like the Birdman? Like,
yeah, exactly. And you're really worried the dad's going to go in that direction, and he doesn't.
Mm-hmm. I kept thinking about like parents who try to get their kids to like hide their queerness.
Mm-hmm.
Not the completely bigoted parents that are like, no son of mine's gay, get out of my house. But the ones that like acknowledge the queerness, but are worried about the outside world and try to like, don't do this outside.
Right.
Like
right.
Those kinds of parents.
Because the dad's fears are not unwarranted.
Yeah, they're legit fears.
Yes.
You will literally be bag tagged and locked away.
Yeah.
Which you don't want that. You're going to be trapped inside a tiny little room for the rest of your existence while they try to like behavioral therapy on you.
Yeah. Which is the fear of the trans kids had. I'm going to get locked up in an institution.
Conversion therapy.
Yeah. They're going to try to make me something I'm not. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I can directly change that. It's the thing that I always got so mad about when people were like, well, it's all in their heads. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's all in their heads if it's not something that they can consciously change.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that are all in your head, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have control over it.
Yeah, exactly.
There are plenty of mental conditions.
There are some things that there are beliefs, there are opinions, and there are things that you really can't change.
There's weird hardwired things that just you developed.
Yeah, and it's
hard. Like ask anyone who's trying to like curb their trauma responses, right?
Ooh,
those things that got hardwired after years of trauma, and like trying to curb those are hard enough. Much less things that go even deeper than like a layer of trauma.
Yeah. And think how hard that is, and realize that's something you have a very small amount of control over. Imagine something you have no control over.
They kind of plant the seed early on that one character's been handing around these little like whistles. They're not like a whistle. It's like a little button you press and it makes this really loud whistling noise.
High frequency noise.
It's the kind of stuff you use to like annoy dogs. Not all of the animals, but a majority of the animals can hear that frequency and humans can't. So if you want to weed out the animal people or keep the animal people away from your establishment, you press that button. Unfortunately, in a confrontation with another teenager who's mad because he has been sleeping around with the girl who's really nice to him.
He's into, yeah.
Because throughout this movie, the main character falls in love with this ADHD girl who is so precious.
Yeah.
She's great.
No,
She's one of my favorite characters in this movie. Her and the Birdman are like, they need to be put in a safe little box and kept away from danger. She obviously kind of figures out what's going on with him, but never says anything.
Yeah.
And just kind of accepts it. You get the feeling that she connects with him because her ADHD is like her version of that.
Yeah.
Like
There's something weird about her that she has no control over.
Yeah.
So she kind of gets.
And society
kind
of wants her to curb her natural behavior inclinations too. And she gets it, but she's not oppressed in the way that
no, not at all.
The animal people are.
But it's so cute when like she runs into him and just kind of admits it. You realize, no, she's kind of into like having sex with dog boy, you know?
Why not? She's a closet furry, like
whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
It's like, okay.
Sure, whatever tickles your fancy. But anyway, the bully kid ends up using one of those beeper things on him, which ends up obviously tormenting him. It's torture. Like it's
painful.
So he ends up fighting back to protect himself, but it doesn't matter. He is now revealed to be an animal person, and the town is now going to hunt him down.
Yeah.
This leads into a whole bunch of scenes, not the least of which being a scene in which he's running from basically the entire town and part of the military, and the Birdman comes and helps him.
Yeah.
And then the Birdman gets shot down and killed, and you're like, no, not Birdman.
Yeah.
Not Fix. He finally learned to fly.
Yeah.
Eventually, it leads to the scene where the dad has to make a choice.
Yeah.
What's he going to do about the son? Is he going to continue to try to repress his son and hide him from society? Or is he going to let his son find his own way? And he chooses to help his son escape the military after he is captured and sets him free.
Oh, God. The scene when they're dealing with the police officer after everything has happened.
That's such a great scene.
So great. Like the dad just steps up and cold cocks the cop.
I love that scene because throughout the entire movie, the dad's been always walking this fine line of not wanting to step out of line.
Right.
But really wanting to protect his family.
Yeah.
And this was the first moment where he just straight up steps over the line.
Yeah.
And puts his family above societal acceptance and everything else.
Yeah.
It's a moment of growth for him.
Yes. Nah, screw this. We're getting out of here. Get out of shit.
And it leads to a scene in which they're escaping from town. The cops are chasing them down in cars. He essentially pulls over to the side and lets his son run off into the wilderness because he's not going to let his son get captured and brought back into one of those facilities. He's not going to suffer the fate of his mom, but he's also not going to try the same failure twice. He has to be able to run free and be who he is.
Yeah.
Literally has to leave the nest, essentially.
Yes.
Very hopeful, very uplifting because his dad finally accepted who he is and took the plunge into letting him be free.
Yeah. It's a story about personal victories, personal heroics.
But at the same time, like he's still going to be on the run for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
It's not like the problem's fixed, but the personal growth is all there.
Yeah.
It's a really great ending.
It was really good. I was ready for it to go either all one way or the other. You would not normally have a situation like this where you have two characters undergoing a parallel growth. And you never feel like the dad is outright wrong.
No.
Ever, which I really appreciated.
The writing in this movie is so good in that it acknowledges all the truths.
Yeah.
While also making clear what the moral choice is.
Yes.
But also acknowledges the dangers.
Yes.
Acknowledges the fears. And it acknowledges that in all the characters. Like, you understand exactly where the dad's coming from.
Yeah. He's not coming from a selfish place at all.
No.
It's not about his position. It's not about his career. It's literally him just trying to navigate this impossible situation.
And I love that the movie ends in a similar scene that the way it begins with.
Yes.
Because you have the opening scene with them both in the car going to meet the mom. And they're having that argument and like, you never listen to me, you never do this, you never do that, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end of the movie, they're in a car again.
Yeah.
It's time for me to listen to my son.
Yeah.
Not for my son to listen to me.
Yeah. You need to run.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of the Harry and the Hendersons bit there. Get out of here. Yeah.
But in both scenes, the son leaves the car, but in different contexts.
Oh, you're right.
In one, he like storms off and the dad storms off after him. And in this one, he lets the kid go and encourages him.
Yeah. And he stays behind to be like, gotten by the cops.
Dad at the beginning of the movie is telling the kid everything to do.
Yeah.
Dad, at the end of the movie, is letting the kid make his own decisions.
Yeah.
So even though it is a movie about all these hoity-toity ideas, it's also at the end of the day about a father learning to accept his son for who he is and allowing his son freedom.
Yeah.
Anyway, my fellow Gorehounds, where can they find you, Count Jackula?
You can find me streaming at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time all weekdays. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's YouTube. Tuesday and Thursday, it's Twitch. And you can follow me on 2 places on social media where I'm likely to respond. One is X-Twitter, if you have to. X-Twitter, where I am Counting Jack. And then on Blue Sky, which I am Count Jackula, which is a good feeling, I gotta tell you. How about you?
Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, on Twitch, Instagram, Facebook. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema, and I'll be there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way, but we will certainly accept more. And if you made it this far into the video, then I want you to comment below, and be sure to comment below using the hashtag DogBoy. Use the hashtag DogBoy. And I have a second request of you. Tell us in the comments below what animal you think you would turn into if you existed in this world. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, peace out, and we'll catch y'all later.